It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Welcome everyone to the Sam Lesante Show. Folks, we're continuing our series, the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce TV series. We started off doing 6 and it just did so well. I don't know how many we have right now, but we're here at the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for the nice emails and constructive ones. My email is sam@ssptv.com. We're right now, according to our ratings, we're about 100,000 people watching the Sam Lesante Show on a weekly basis. We're the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. I really appreciate that very much. The show here with the Chamber is to bring information to you, regardless where you live, but it's just good information. And today's show is another show that is going to bring you some real good information. My co-host here, Bob Carl, who is the King, Executive Director, Exalted Ruler, whatever. We have to call him Your Excellency now. How are you, Robert?
I'm great, Sam, and welcome back to the Chamber. We have quite a show for you today here. Something that I think is going to cause people to pause, which is exactly what I would like. Heidi Edwards, who is the founder and the president of the Sisters Hope Foundation, her family has been affected by a very rare and very traumatic disease, ALSP. And the interesting part about this, Sam, is I don't think I ever met Heidi until several months ago when she came to my Lions Club, Orgsburg Lions Club, and presented, as service clubs have, outside speakers. And I realized as Heidi speaking that I grew up with her mother, her aunt, her uncle, all who have been lost to this disease. And it paused me. It caused me to say, my God, I played with these kids when I was young. I know exactly where their family homestead is. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because I had never heard about this. So the importance of today to me is, #1, Heidi Edwards is one of the most courageous women I've ever met. And she's taking a very traumatic thing for her family and turning it into action. And we need to know about this, and we need to know how we can help, because these kind of diseases only get solved through education, programming, research, and funding. And that's what the Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce wants to do, to spread this word.
So it must have been an interesting speech by her, because you really got involved with this and wanted to. You also had her on your radio show, right?
I had her on our radio show. This is kind of what we do in our membership base of 770 members. Well over 100 are nonprofits, and they all have causes, and part of the cause is always education, sometimes fundraising. But in this particular case, I can't even tell you how close to home this hits for me. These were friends. These were people I grew up with, and if I didn't meet Heidi, I didn't even know that this disease was not only here in Schuylkill County, but around the world.
Yeah, reading about it, you always send me information before the show. It's quite interesting. I'm looking forward to talking to her.
Absolutely.
Well, we hope that when the show airs, we'll be able to get people to certainly become aware of it, and also be able to help out with the research situation.
That's the goal.
All right, we're going to take a break, folks. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. We're continuing our Schuylkill Chamber of Commerce TV series, and we're here at the Chamber of Commerce, thanks to all the great people here. Today's show is being very informative. It's something that I think when you hear the story and what's going on, it's just amazing. Heidi Edwards is the president and founder of Sisters Hope Foundation, and she's here today. And well, let me just start with this. First of all, thanks for coming on the show. Tell us your story.
So my journey with ALSP started almost 20 years ago, and we didn't even realize it was happening. I had a family member, my aunt, that was diagnosed with a frontal temporal dementia. And soon after she passed, my mother became ill, and the experts realized that it must be genetic but they didn't know what we were dealing with. Quickly, her brother became symptomatic, and in 2013, when he passed away, we were able to find out that they had an autosomal dominant rare disease called ALSP.
Which is?
Adult-onset leukoencephalopathy with axonal spheroids and pigmented glia.
Okay, that's a big word, all right? And break that down to us and tell us what does that mean?
So that means that this is an adult-onset disease.
It starts when you're an adult.
When you're an adult.
Okay. Were you born with it?
Yes, you're born with a mutated gene. It's a mutation on the CSF1R gene.
Okay, yes.
So we're really fortunate. Our story is very tragic, but they did identify the mutation at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. And because of that, we were able to determine that our family carried this mutated gene and that 50% of my family may have received the gene passed down from their mother or father. So in my situation, I had two sisters. So my mother carried the gene. She passed away in 2012.
How old was your mother?
She was 57.
Young.
Very young.
She died from this disease? Okay.
Along with her brother and sister in their mid-50s.
Ooh.
By 2019, my two sisters became symptomatic. Holly passed away this summer in July. Heather passed away 10 months prior from the disease. They were 44 and 45.
Oh my God.
So my twin sister was Holly. So I know I do not carry the mutation. I found out right away. Heather and Holly decided to move on with their life as if they didn't have the gene, because at that time there was no cure.
They didn't know they had the gene.
They had no idea until they became symptomatic.
And what are the symptoms?
So early on in the disease, it's personality changes. You may notice, just something that we all might experience, with our behavior or slight changes with your personality, maybe some depression. But as the disease progresses, you'll have some people, and it's different in everyone, you may have problems with executive functioning, or you may have seizures. You may lose the ability to speak. Holly, who was the extrovert.
This is your twin sister?
Yeah, she loved to talk. She was a social butterfly. She started having problems speaking. We couldn't understand what she was saying. And it was so cruel. She lost her ability to talk. Where Heather, early in the disease, would get confused when driving. She wasn't able to turn on the computer anymore. She couldn't figure out how to pull up certain websites that she was used to doing. She couldn't send a simple text message without getting the words all mixed up.
So when these symptoms start happening, do they go to a medical doctor?
So in this situation, because we knew we had a genetic condition, Heather and Holly went to the University of Pennsylvania, where there is an expert working on white matter diseases. This is a white matter disease, and they had genetic testing done to confirm. Now, by the time they went to the doctor, they had obvious symptoms. So during the neurological testing, you could tell, the doctor knew that it was 99.9% positive for the disease. But the confirmation came from the genetic testing. With adult-onset leukoencephalopathy, it affects all aspects of the body. So it might, it starts as an invisible illness. You don't know what's going on inside your brain. But as there's atrophy and it starts to change, you then become real rigid and stiff. You lose the ability to move your left side.
It's like a dystrophy.
Yes. Very similar to MS. People are often misdiagnosed with an MS or a frontotemporal dementia.
Yes.
So you'll have personality changes, behavioral changes, problems with organizing your thoughts. It'll move into memory issues and movement issues. So think of the worst case scenario. Alzheimer's, which is a dementia, and Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which is a movement disorder. And now you have both of them in one disease. You eventually have dementia. in this disease and a movement disorder. So you lose the ability to walk, you lose the ability to move, you lose that ability to function, and eventually it happens throughout the entire body. It may happen in different stages for each individual.
Do all these things happen to the members of your family?
Yes.
So
We've lost 5 individuals now, and we have 2 more that have been diagnosed.
So this mutation, all right, if they would, when, is this something new that's happened over the last 10, 15 years, or has this been around, this particular what's it?
ALSP?
Yeah.
It's been around. We only found out what the gene was in 2012. So it is something new that the neurologists can look for if they can do genetic testing. So we're fortunate with a rare disease, because with over 7,000 rare diseases, most don't have a gene that they know causes the disease.
That's right.
So we're fortunate to have that test available
Yeah.
to determine if you have the disease. But early in the disease, it was called something else. There's been a few names for this disease. HDLS, hereditary diffuse leukoencephalopathy. It's also known as CSF1R related leukodystrophy, ALSP, and POLD, POLD. So some people may be diagnosed with one of those 4 diseases, but it's actually the same disease. And we're trying to get everyone on the same page to call it ALSP.
All right, so I know in muscular dystrophy they've come a long way in the years, okay? I was very active for 10 years with the muscular dystrophy telethon at the WNEP. Was happy to be the TV chair, the chairman. But what happens now if you have that disease, if you have that mutation? Is there something to help cure it, or is there anything that is available, or what do you do?
So there is no cure for the disease right now, but Heather, my sister, she underwent an experimental bone marrow transplant, and she actually passed away during the transplant. So that was the first option that was available.
She passed away during the transplant?
Yes. Her disease was too far progressed. So now she was only the 8th person in the world to receive the transplant in 2020. She did not survive the transplant because she was too far progressed. So they're still doing a lot of work on understanding who can undergo the bone marrow transplant. But in the meantime, through Sisters Hope Foundation, I was contacted by a biotech company that started working in the ALSP space. So Vigil Neuroscience is a new startup biotechnology company, and they are working on a natural history study, which is just looking at the baseline and starting to understand the disease and how it progresses. And next year, they will start a clinical trial to help slow down the progression of this disease.
And how will they do that?
Through infusions. It's an infusion therapy.
So there is hope out there.
There is hope. Yes, there is hope. So where for 10 years, and my sisters thought, why find out if you have this disease? There's nothing they can do for us. Now there are options. The bone marrow transplant is an option. It's not always a great option, but if you find out early enough, it may be an option for you. But now we have other biotech companies working on a cure. So you have options available.
Are there any members of your family now who have this disease that are alive?
Yes. Right now we do know that we have 2 family members that are positive for the mutation. My 19-year-old nephew, Holly's son, found out in September that he does carry the mutation. He is asymptomatic, and he's only 19. So he will start the baseline testing through the study, the natural history study, and hopefully does not have any brain changes yet. And by the time he needs help, there will be options available for him. Right here in Schuylkill County, where my family was born and raised, my cousin was recently diagnosed as well with the disease. He does live in Orrigsburg. He is 42 years old.
And he saw he felt the symptoms?
Yes. Yes. So he, knowing what his father went through, because his father passed away from the disease, what my aunt and my mother went through, and then my sisters, you start to recognize when something may not be right. So he recognized that there might be symptoms. He met with the doctor, had the genetic testing done, which is really easy now. They literally send you the swab kit to your house, and you just test your cheeks and send it back to them, and talk with your genetic counselor.
So there's hope.
There is hope, yes.
Okay. So in terms of medicine that they will be getting, well, do they start now, or do they have to wait for a certain period when it's another degree?
Right now, what's holding us up is that the clinical trial will not start until next year.
Okay.
So anyone who knows that they are positive for the CSF1R mutation can start the natural history study, and they will be entered right into the clinical trial. Now it's a clinical trial, so once you get started, there's no guarantee. We're testing this. They are testing this out right now on asymptomatic patients, but it's hope. It's hope for the future. Something we didn't have when my mom was diagnosed, when my sisters were diagnosed. We didn't have this clinical trial available.
Oh, I can imagine the hurt and the pain in your family. This is really something. So that's how you started the Sisters Hope Foundation.
Yes.
Okay. Does age have a factor here, or is it? I could see now it doesn't, because you have 19 and 42 and 50 some. So age doesn't have a factor; it just hits.
Age is not a factor in this disease. We do know it's an adult onset, but we also know through Sisters Hope Foundation and the families I've connected with around the world that there are 80-year-olds living with this mutation that have no symptoms. And there's 27-year-olds who have passed away from the disease. So it can hit at any time. We're still working with scientists and doctors and clinicians in the field to find out what might trigger it in someone at 27 years old, but not in someone who's 80.
How many families did you say are affected by this?
Well, right now I have connected with 25 families around the world. It's a rare disease, and we're still trying to educate and raise awareness to find more families. Through the journal articles and publications and meeting with doctors around the world, we do know that there are over 200 documented cases. So Japan has a big case of families, Europe, and then here in the United States.
Okay, so I have 100,000 people who watch the show on a weekly basis. Very proud of that. So what can we do, all right, in terms of, and these people who are watching this have relatives maybe all over the world or in the United States, and maybe they've speaking to one of the relatives and say, Sammy hasn't been doing too well, he's this, he's that, or what. You never know, okay? What can we do?
So if you are dealing with an illness and the doctors are not able to figure it out, ask for a genetic test. I advocate for genetic testing, yes, which can mimic other diseases.
That's
of course,
the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
But there's genetic testing available, so why not use it? Find out, rule this out. Rule out this disease, so at least you know, okay, I do or I do not have ALSP.
Okay. All right, so if they do the test and they find out they have this disease, there are options for them now with new medicine that's coming out, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any current medicine right now that is being used, or is it still in experimental stages?
It's still in experimental stages. There's nothing being used.
Nothing being used.
So right now, if you have the disease, all the doctors can do is treat your symptoms.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of hope there, isn't there? Okay. And so you've been going out talking about this just so you bring awareness to it.
Yes.
Okay. So before we go to break, explain to our viewers what are the symptoms of this ALSP.
The symptoms begin with some psychological and personality changes. You'll start to have movement disorders. Shuffled gait is a big sign. You may have loss of speech and seizures. So if you start to experience something like stroke-like symptoms, which happens, go to the emergency room. Make sure you're not having a stroke, and rule out this through genetic testing too.
You've been doing a lot of talking on this, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, now, is there if anyone would like to, is there anywhere that they can contribute money to help facilitate this awareness or the process of curing the medicine or whatever?
Through sistershopefoundation.org, you can donate directly to our foundation. You can also join some of the social media events that we have going on
And where
help
does money
raise
go
funds.
then? Where does the money go?
The money goes to raising more awareness, spreading the word, and research.
That's the most
So
important.
we work closely with the University of Pennsylvania and other large institutions around the country to fund research.
Have they given you any hope as to when they think a vaccine or whatever would be available? Have they given you any hope? Are they close? Where are they at?
There's some companies that say in the next 5 years we'll have something.
Okay.
For those that are already symptomatic, that's not soon enough, but 5 years it'll be here really fast.
Heidi, do you believe in prayer?
Yes,
Keep praying.
thank you.
And I'll tell you, and you need all the prayers you get, and hopefully those people who have the disease will be able to cope with it and be able to live until something comes out. But keep those prayers going. Very powerful.
Thank you.
Heidi Edwards, folks, president and founder of Sisters Hope Foundation. Interesting. We certainly hope you don't have it, but she mentioned the symptoms, but most especially if you have some money to donate to help the research. Believe me when I tell you, for 10 years I worked with muscular dystrophy, and I've seen the progress from the first year I was involved to the last year in helping people have muscular dystrophy, and I'm sure this is something that will hopefully get better within the next years. We want to hurry up the process. So the more money they can get, I hope will help the research.
Yes,
Thanks
thank you.
for coming on the show. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. 24/7, ssptv.com. All of our shows are there, 21 original programming, my friends. And remember, Comcast 190, every day, 7 to 11 p.m. On the Greater Pottsville area system. Hazleton, Service Electric Cablevision, Channel 13, and our HD channel 513, 24/7. And the Wilkes-Barre system, Service Electric Cable Communications, Channel 92, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Robert, very interesting interview with Heidi. Very interesting. I don't know what to say.
It's hard to put it into words. As I said, I don't know how to describe Heidi Edwards and the Sisters Hope Foundation. It's courageous, but you know what I love about what she does? It's taking something that you could consume you and turning it into action. She's a woman of action. She's lost a lot of family members and has affected family members. And there's people like this around the world that she doesn't know about and the scientists don't know about. But she's committed to action. And I believe, as we've seen so many times and you've talked about, action creates a pathway to success and hopefully a cure. And that's what it's all about. But we need to help people like this who have a passion and don't get all hung up on, oh, this has been traumatic, this has happened to me and my family. What can I do to move this forward? That's who Heidi Edwards is.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Here's a person that took the sorrow. Believe me, you think you have problems, but to be positive and to work towards something that could benefit literally thousands of people, that's why I say surround yourself with positive people. It's so important to do that. You need that uplift. I mean, it's devastating. I mean, when you talk about her twin sister and her mom and her dad, I mean, these are, they get to the heart.
Two sisters and, now a nephew. I mean, this story goes on. But as much as Heidi has this burden that she's carrying here locally, it's around the world, and we already know that. I know she mentioned Japan and other places, Europe, I think Australia as well. At the end of the day, she is doing some miracle work here in outreach, compelling scientists to move forward. Right here from Schuylkill County, right here from the homestead in Orrigsburg, this is now a worldwide cause. And I just think that we begin with education. And, again, you cannot substitute for passion and conviction That's what Sisters Hope Foundation is about. That's what Heidi Edwards is about.
Well, we hope, my friends, you watched the show. If you didn't, it's on a number of times. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook or whatever. It's just a great opportunity for you to help out the foundation. We'll see you next time.